We're live. Hello. Oop, forgot to button this button. It's Chris. I'm in Salt Lake City. It is 11 a.m. here, 1 o'clock on the East Coast. Welcome. I just gave a talk about the election, which was fun. And I just posted my Friday mailbag segment on my Substack. So if you have not checked out my Substack, you should check out my Substack. It's cool. It is $6 a month, $60 for the year, but like 80% of the content's free. But you need to support me. So, come on. All right, let's see. Questions. First of all, if you have not subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Now's the time. There's 25 days left in the election. If not now, when? So subscribe, like this video, give it the thumbs up, this live stream. We're going to go for a while here. I got to catch a plane, so I'm mindful of the time, but let's do this. And as always, your donations are very much appreciated, but not necessary, but I'll emphasize very much appreciated. So if you want to give here or you want to subscribe to my Substack, that's great. If you give here, I will jump your question up to the front of the line. Okay, Ahmed Hindawi. Hold on, Ahmed. Weird clicking issues. Oh, no, just a donation. That's nice. Thank you, sir. Okay, let's go. Let's get started here. Come on, Chris. Can I make this work? Okay. Sam. Hi, Chris. Can you talk about waiting on recalled vote has affected polling this year and whether pollsters should be using it? Read Nate Cohn's piece and wanted to get your thoughts. I don't know that, Sam. You got to tell me more about it. I mean, yes, all polls are weighted to what the pollster believes the turnout will be, what the electorate will look like. I don't know about recalled votes, so tell me more about that. John C. Polls are tightening and Real Clear Politics has Trump up narrowly in all swing states but Wisconsin. Why do you think polls are tightening? And does Trump now have the edge? Also, some polls have huge swings. Why? You know, John, because polling is at least part art and part science. What you put into a poll is what you'll get out of a poll, right? If you put into a poll stuff that is, a much whiter sample or a much blacker sample, you're going to get different results, right? Now, they always try to match these things up to what they think the electorate's actually going to look like, because breaking news pollsters are interested in getting it right most of the time. But it's, it really is art as much as it is science. I do think, oh, look, you can see my suitcase right there. I do think it's all packed. I do think that Trump has a little bit of momentum right now, particularly in the Rust Belt blue wall. So Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Again, I think it's marginal. It's not like he's up 10 points or anything, but I do think it is moving a little bit there. We've seen polling move there slightly toward him. And we've seen anecdotal evidence too, right? Like Alyssa Slotkin, who's running for Senate in Michigan, has said publicly that she thinks the numbers are not great in Wisconsin. The Cook Political Report moved the Wisconsin Senate race that Tammy Baldwin is running in from leans Democratic to toss-up. So there's something going on there. Again, I always say, don't depend on one poll, right? Look at the averages if you look at them at all. That's my basic view. Sarah H. I've never really watched Trump's rallies, but the last few I've seen clips of seem really low energy and ranting terrible things. Is this different from before or last election rally? How is it so close? I don't think so, Sarah. I've watched lots of Trump rallies and read a lot of Trump transcripts and watched a lot of Trump interviews, and I've done all of those things. And I don't see a huge difference there. He's definitely slower in terms of his thought and his speech pattern. So, sometimes he struggles for a word or he says the wrong word. So he's not as quick on his feet as he once was. So there are differences from 2016 till now, but it doesn't seem to me to be marked differences. They've kind of always been like this. He's kind of always been like this. That's my take. Sherry Zimmerman, just a reminder to like and share for this high-energy, go-getter, American-made working man. American-made working man. That's me. Yes, like this video. Hit the thumbs up. Share this video. Tell people. Human NC, hey Chris, The Economist argues in its edition this week that Trump has shaped both parties' policies. Do you agree? I do. I mean, clearly he has reimagined the Republican Party, literally. He has turned it from a kind of global, globalist sort of, spread democracy around the world, trade, debt and deficit focus, social values, whether it's gay marriage or abortion focus, to something totally different than that, to this sort of populist, protectionist, nationalist party. So he's clearly affected the Republican Party. The Democratic Party, I think, has radicalized a little bit in response to Trump. I mean, look, between 2020 and 2022, the Democratic Party moved way left. Now, Kamala Harris is trying to get away from some of those things, like defund the police and the Green New Deal and that sort of things, but they moved way left, I think, at least in part in reaction to Trump. Obviously, there are other things going on in the world, George Floyd murder and those sorts of things. But yes, he definitely has influenced both parties. Let's see. Hold on. Stephen Williams. Thank you for the donation, Stephen. Happy Friday, Stephen says. Have a good flight. I will. I'm going through Minneapolis. Thank you as always for the donation, Stephen. Much appreciated. Dave Collier. Dave, thank you so much for the donation. 2020 was a febrile year, love that word, in every sense of the term. COVID, lockdowns, George Floyd protests, QAnon. This led to high turnouts and, hold on, this is a continuation of a question. And Dave, I don't have your whole thing. It just says this led to high turnouts and, okay. I'm assuming the question, first of all, thank you for your donation. Always appreciated. Not necessary, but you do get your question read first if you donate to me. Got to incentivize it somehow. Yes, 2020 was hugely high turnout because of all the things you mentioned. States made it easier to vote by absentee. They made the early vote window longer. It lowered the sort of logistical bar to vote, and lots of people took advantage of it. I think 2024 is more likely to be a turnout year like 2016. Okay turnout, not low, but certainly not as high as 2020. Who is that good for? Traditionally, high turnout is good for the Democratic candidate because their coalition, particularly young people, are the least likely to be reliable voters. But with Trump, I don't really know. It's hard to say. Jeffrey B. Jeffrey, thank you for your donation. I think Trump is being used to get elected and then will be removed using the 25th. I think Vance will then implement 2025 and get a national abortion ban plan. I know I sound crazy. You don't sound crazy. I don't think that's going to happen, candidly, but I know some people think that way. I don't think the 25th Amendment's getting invoked. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think the 25th Amendment's getting invoked. I always think it's funny that Trump says that Democrats were going to invoke the 25th Amendment against Biden if he didn't get out of the race this year, when in fact we know at least some people in Trump's administration were talking about invoking the 25th Amendment against him. Oh, okay, good. Dave, I got the second half of your question. So it was, given 2024 is more of a normal year, should we be using 2020 as a main point of comparison? Not for turnout, no, because I do think turnout is very likely to be lower than 2020 because we don't have all the ways that they changed the rules so that people could vote. But thank you, Dave. Good question. And thank you for your donation. Very much appreciated. Justin Ziegler. Rasmussen has been said to be unreliable in polls and reporting. What makes them so unreliable versus Fox, given how both lean conservative? So the issue with Rasmussen is they just don't release their data, like the underlying data of their polls. They're not super transparent about it. And I think that's an issue. Most pollsters, good, credible pollsters, and that includes Fox News, who do serious, transparent polling, will show you like, here's how I got to this result, or here's how I got to that result. Sorry, I'm stretching. Rasmussen doesn't really do that. And I think that I think is the main issue there, Justin. I hope that makes sense. Harvey Rabbit says, please start your question with @Chris Cillizza to make it easy for him to find questions over the crosstalk. Yeah, sure. That's fine. Phil Reinhart, do you see any evidence-based reason for optimism about our political environment going forward? I don't. No, I do not. This talk I just gave, somebody said, there was a great question, actually. They said, July 4th, 2026 will be the 250th anniversary of the founding of America. Will our dialogue in politics be different and better by then? And I said, no, I don't think so. The incentive structures in politics and political journalism now are all to the extremes to say, like, this person you disagree with is a bad and horrible person, and they have malicious motives. And it's hard to find a way to have a conversation. I always say, like, if we're having a conversation and you started off with, well, Trump's America's Hitler, as anyone go from there? You know what I mean? It kind of shuts it down in the same way that you say Kamala Harris is a Marxist who wants to destroy the country. Okay. Like, I know that gets clicks, eyeballs, subscriptions. I get all that stuff, but like, it doesn't help us have a conversation. But that's where the financial incentives and the political incentives are right now. And so that's why we're getting this. Joe D. Ramirez. Chris, my 11-year-old daughter is showing an interest in golf. How soon should we piss away money on lessons? I'm inclined to let her develop the bad habits at the range beforehand. So as someone who has pissed away a lot of money on sports lessons, I think a lot of this travel sports stuff or private lesson stuff, see if your kid likes the sport. If they really like it and they want to work and get better at it, then maybe invest in lessons. But these people who think they've got the next Nolan Ryan or the next, Clayton Kershaw or the next Aaron Judge, wait and see if the kid even likes the sport. The only way that the kid is going to continue in the sport and get good at the sport is obviously some level of natural ability, but also real commitment, not from you, the parent, but from them to get better. You hand-holding them, I don't think in the long run is a smart solution. Jeff Wolf, do you genuinely believe Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks people have the power to alter the weather? Is she truly that naive? Yeah, I do think she believes it. So one of the things I think a lot of people say, like, man, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you must think she's the worst. Not really, because I actually think Marjorie Taylor Greene believes a lot of what she says. I really do. I think she does. I think if you gave her a lie detector test and you said, was the 2020 election stolen? She would say yes, and she'd probably pass. My contempt is for people who know better. So like Marco Rubio put out a tweet the other day saying the economic numbers are, this was after the jobs report last week. The economic numbers are fixed. We all know that they're fixed. Like, Marco Rubio knows better than that, right? Like, clearly, and yet he still does it. So it's kind of like, those are the people I think are contemptible. The Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, less so. Johnny Heritage. Afternoon, Chris. If Trump wins, will Mike Johnson retain his speakership? I mean, if Donald Trump wins and Republicans pick up seats in the House, he probably will, at least for the near term. Will he in the long term? I don't know the answer to that. The problems within the Republican conference in the House are that nothing is ever good enough for some of these people in the Freedom Caucus. They want total capitulation to Republican principles. But the reality of the situation is, like, if Democrats are either in the White House or the Senate, that won't pass anything. So it's kind of stupid to think that way, but that's the problem. So yeah, if they gain seats, I could see that happening. Johnson holding on, but I'm not totally sure he in the long run is long for the job. Hold on, I wanted to send. Okay, hold on. While we're talking, I'm going to go to Twitter/X and say I am taking questions. Whoops, I spelled that wrong. Taking questions live right now, and then link. Let's see if more people want to come and hang out. Okay, done. All right, I'm back. Let's keep going. Patrick Brumbaugh. Chris, I just learned that JD Vance has not released his taxes either. Do you think that makes a difference to the average independent voter? No, because we've so lowered the standard here in terms of like what is acceptable conduct for how these politicians need to be transparent about their finances. But no, if you're not upset that Donald Trump, who's got various complications in terms of his taxes, hasn't released them, really, didn't pay taxes for more than a decade, I'll note, then I doubt that JD Vance not releasing his taxes makes a big difference to you. Let's see. Sam, since you flew yesterday, Dulles or Reagan? Reagan. Chris, Patrick Murray, Chris, why are you in Salt Lake? I am in Salt Lake to give a speech. I give paid speeches, once every couple of weeks. Usually they're in DC. Sometimes they pay for me to come out to awesome places like Salt Lake City. I'm going to be in Dallas later this month, which will be cool. But if you've got an organization who wants to hear from me, email me, solicicy@gmail.com. SD Guy 1234. Hi, Chris. Hello. Shabad Springfield. If you had to bet, which state is most likely to flip aside from the big seven? I don't think any. I think we're really talking about 7 battleground states. A lot of people always ask, like, what's the next state? Minnesota has been close. Republicans have been gaining in Minnesota for the last few years, last few election cycles. Virginia maybe sort of close. Florida might be sort of close. Texas will be within single digits. I just don't see any of those flipping at this point. I guess I'd be surprised. Brian, Chris, you should go on breaking points or counterpoints. I'm happy to do that. I just need someone to invite me. CILLIZZAC@gmail.com, man, comes right to me. I'm happy to do any of those things. Mark Vincent, hey, Chris, which year was the closest you ever came to voting? Because I was a journalist and am a journalist, I've never really come close to voting. I do plan to vote in this election, but I'll share something with you that I've struggled with. I had David Chalian, who's the political director at CNN, come in and talk to my Georgetown class a couple weeks ago. And somebody asked him about being nonpartisan and was it hard? And he said, you know what? It wasn't really hard because he had spent so much of his life looking at what happened in politics and with politicians through the sphere of kind of journalism. Like, is this good? Is this bad? Is there majority support for this? Is there not? Strategically, does this make sense? And man, that really rang resonant with me. I've never really been an activist. I've always looked at politics. Ever since I got interested in politics, I've always looked at it through the lens of journalism, not activism, and not voting. And it's hard for me to kind of switch that switch. I'm just being honest. It's challenging for me to do that. I know that might sound weird to folks because that's not their experience, right? They're very much like on one side or the other. But I never really, I don't know. That's never really been my thing. Anyway, keep asking questions, folks. I need more, or we'll end faster than we should. Shoot, I just skipped like 1,000 people. Okay. DD, what are the chances that Michigan and Wisconsin split? Good question. So Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, the blue wall, they have voted for the same candidate in the presidential race in every presidential race since 1988. So in 1988, George H.W. Bush won one of them, and I think the other two went to caucus. Or maybe he won two of them and one went to caucus. Regardless, since 88, they voted the exact same in every election. So I guess I would say the chances aren't super high that they split because for the last, 20, 30 years, they've always voted together. But it's certainly possible, but I think probably not likely, I guess is the answer to that. Matt Aarons, polls should have huge swings when the margin of error is plus or minus 3. It means a poll could be 47-53 one week and 53-47 another, but the media tends to only look at the mean. Yeah, I think you're right. I think people don't understand the margin of error. So let's say a poll has a 3-point margin of error, and it shows Harris at 49 and Trump at 46. Well, Harris's range, given the margin of error in that poll, they're saying scientifically could be anywhere between 46 and 52, 3 points down or 3 points up from her number. And Trump's range is anywhere between 43 and 49, 3 points up or down from his number. People don't understand that. And I think they need to in order to really get the sort of why there's some variance in polling. By the way, if you have not thumbs this up, like this, subscribe to my channel. Come on, people. Let's see. Mark W. just says Kamala is losing. Okay. Oh, sorry, I missed a couple people. Travis Michaels, thank you for the donation, Travis. Sorry, I missed you. Hey, Chris, I'm in Omaha. Can Dan Osborne win? Probably not. So if you don't know this, Dan Osborne is running as an independent for Senate against Deb Fischer, the Republican in Nebraska. I think polling shows it pretty close. There's no Democratic nominee. Now, Osborne has not said whether he will side with caucus with Democrats or Republicans if he wins. But there's no Democratic nominee, so he's kind of the de facto Democratic nominee. I think polling is close. I think the problem is people woke up to the issue of Deb Fischer too early, as in Republicans realized she had a problem, and they've now started spending money, and I think things are coming back. Remember, Republicans have a massive voter registration edge over Democrats in Nebraska and even over independents. So it's always a hard slog, I think. So I think he loses. He probably loses by less than 10. But I think he loses. Hold on. I'm texting my driver who's taking me to the airport. I'm telling him, you know what I did? I went last night I need to hold on one sec. The oh shoot. Yeah. This story will be worth it. Hold on. I'm texting. Okay, here's what happened last night. So last night I get into Salt Lake City. It's kind of late, but not super late. It's like 8 in Mountain Time. And a friend was like, go to this bar. It's kind of near your hotel. It's awesome. And they have this ice bar where like you put your drink down. It's actual ice. You put your drink down and it keeps it cold the whole time. And it's a great old place. So I was like, oh, I'll go. It was awesome. I had one beer. It was a sour, raspberry sour. I don't know. I don't like beer. I'm more of a sour and ciders guy. Delicious. I get back to my hotel and I look and I realize I've left my credit card at the place. I had one beer, left my credit card there. So I'm going to try and swing by there and get it before I head back to DC. Otherwise, it's a lost cause. Anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Okay, more questions. Matt Davidson. Matt, thank you so much for the donation. Extremely kind and much appreciated. Always, I'll remind people, you don't have to donate, but if you do, I will read your question and jump into the front of the line. Matt says, I'm in bright red Missouri, but I see Harris yard signs 3-1 over Trump. What are the chances the polls have overcorrected the Trump advantage and Harris wins big? Am I way off? Look, there's always a chance, right? I mean, I don't want to say it's impossible, but I do not think that yard signs are a good indicator of support. If Trump doesn't win Missouri overwhelmingly, then yes, Harris is going to absolutely run away with this thing. No question. But I think he's going to win Missouri pretty comfortably. And I know people are focused on this Lucas Kunce guy, the Democratic Senate nominee. He's not going to win. I think, he might come closer than the average Democrat, but he's not going to beat Josh Hawley. So yeah, don't assume yard signs are indicative of what's happening. It's one thing, but it's not that instructive. Derek Taylor. Derek, thank you so much for the donation. Super nice, super appreciated. Pennsylvania, Democratic governor, 2 Democratic senators, Bill Maher, Michael Moore, Alan Lichtman say Harris will win. Polls are snapshots and not accurate. What do you think? Pennsylvania definitely has a Democratic roots, right? Biden won it in 2020. Obviously, Obama won it twice. Shapiro's the governor. There are now 2 Fetterman and why can't I think of it? Fetterman and Bob Casey are the 2 senators. So yeah, there's a Democratic tradition there, but I do think Trump has an appeal that is just a little different. In Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan. Lower middle class white men flock to Trump much more than a typical Republican nominee. So that's why I think Pennsylvania is close, why I think Michigan is close, why I think Wisconsin is close. Trump's coalition is just a little bit different. So we'll see. Derek, thank you again, though, for the donation. Let's see. Mike Witt. Mike, thanks for the donation. Appreciate you. In Wisconsin here, I think Kamala will win a tight race, but starting to get really nervous about Tammy Baldwin. Polls are getting closer in that race. Yeah, it's going to be close for sure. We'll see where it shakes out. But yeah, I think Wisconsin is where Trump has gained the most ground in the last month. I think there's no doubt about that. Doesn't mean he's ahead, because I don't think he's ahead, but he's definitely gained ground. Let's see. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Anand Changela. I hope I said that right. With Susan Collins being the only president-Senate split 26-2020, do you predict Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania Senate losses for the Democratic incumbent? Yeah, so I love that. Sorry, right here. My driver is texting me. Yes. So one of my favorite stats is that in 2016 and 2020, there were 69 Senate races on the ballot. 68 of those Senate races were won by the same party that won the presidential race. The only exception, as Anand points out, was Susan Collins in Maine, where she won in 2020 and Biden carried the state. So yeah, I absolutely think the fates of Tammy Baldwin and Alyssa Slotkin and Bob Casey Jr. are tied to the states. Is it the presidential race? Is it possible that, let's say Trump wins by a half a point in Pennsylvania? Yeah, I think Bob Casey could still win, right? If Trump wins by 2 or 3, it's harder. Same thing for Harris and the Republican challengers. But yeah, look, if Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania go to Trump, I think Democratic incumbents, Democratic candidates lose at least 2 of those 3. And since they're probably already going to lose Montana and West Virginia, well, they're losing West Virginia and maybe Ohio, it could be a tough night. I mean, we'll see, but yeah. See? Tony Gatliff. Tony, thank you so much for the donation. Much appreciated. Emhoff scandal media blackout thoughts. So the reporting I've seen, and I don't know that much about it, is this allegation that he may have assaulted a former girlfriend. I guess I'll look more into it. I'm skeptical of this whole, like, the media is purposely ignoring it. I mean, I spent a long time in mainstream media, and I'm not and I don't think they purposely ignore stuff, but I tell you, I'm in media. I'm not purposely ignoring it. Let me look into it and get back with you. I hope that's an acceptable answer. Thank you for the donation. Let's see. Trying to get people who haven't asked a question. Pascal Keel. Pascal, thank you so much for the donation. He says, hi, Chris, much love from Switzerland. What's your opinion on the various state ballot measured on ranked choice voting in Nevada, Oregon, Idaho, South Dakota, and DC? I'm very much pro ranked choice voting. For people who don't know, here's how ranked choice voting works. Let's say me and Pascal and my phone are running. I always use my phone as an example. And you vote for me first, my phone second, and Pascal third. And then I get eliminated because I'm not in the top 2 of all the people who have voted. Well, then your vote for me, I'm out. Your second vote was for Pascal. So boom, Pascal gets your vote. And we do that until I just think it incentivizes people to reach out to broader coalitions, to not just appeal to your narrow base of support. So I'm pro. I don't know how they will fare. I hope they will pass because I think it's good for democracy. Matt Aaron says, Real Clear Politics uses a lot of lower quality polls in their averages. They do. I would say Real Clear Politics tend to be a little bit more friendly to Republicans in their polling averages than 538 or Decision Desk HQ or Nate Silver. Just keep that in mind. John Suda, is Harris making a mistake by not talking about policy specifics? I think she's kind of making a mistake by not just talking more about herself. I don't know you have to get into a huge amount of specifics. I always think the more specifics you get into in the context of a campaign, the worse, only because they can pick apart your specifics. I do think she needs to be out there more, though. I think they are running like the front runner in a race that's basically tied, right? So I think she is trying to sort of coast into office on momentum and vibes. And I think that those have started to run short. And I think that is the question of the last 25 days is, okay, what else is there for the Harris campaign? What else does it look like? So I think she should take a few more risks, put herself in a few more situations, do more town hall. Obviously, or not obviously, but it looks like we're not going to have any more debates. So take advantage of that. Offer yourself up to do more town halls, to do more informal stuff, to do more formal stuff, to get yourself out in front of people more. I think that would benefit her. N Black, any thoughts on Harris's recent interview, 60 Minutes, Colbert, etc.? I did not see Colbert. I thought her interview with The View was not great because she said that she would not change anything about how Joe Biden governed in his governing decisions. I think that's dumb. Biden is unpopular. His positions on immigration and all that stuff, unpopular. I think is crazy for her to just be like, yeah, I support all of that. So look, I think more media is better for Harris. More exposure is probably better for her. But I will say I did not think she was great during that interview. Let's see, got a bunch of stuff here. Joe D. Ramirez says, love the commercials mid-discussion. Sorry, man. Got to pay the bills. Nebraska Senate, Tyler Harrington, I already covered that. Jordan Wright, what are the chances Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania don't vote together this cycle? I think not likely. Jacob Brewer, is the Senate gone for Dems? Probably. So they have a 1-seat majority. West Virginia is gone. I think Montana is pretty much gone. New York Times released a poll Thursday that had Sheehy up 8 over Tester. That's tough. With Trump up 17 in the state, really hard to win that. And then then you have Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. All those could be tough. Arizona, Nevada, maybe down that next level. Those are all Democratic seats. I don't see Ted Cruz losing. I don't see Rick Scott losing. The Times had polls on both of them. I think Scott was up 9, Cruz was up 4. Seems about right, but I just think it's hard to beat either of them. Peter Pan, what do you think of Harris losing all of a sudden? I don't think she's losing all of a sudden. I think directionally the trend line is not as good for her today as it was 2 weeks ago, particularly in the upper Midwest and Pennsylvania. But I don't think she's losing. I mean, it's like 47, 46, 40, 48, 46. She's ahead in some of these polls. I just think she might have been mildly ahead, and now I think it's basically tied. Let's see. Michael Gates, hey, Chris, from the standpoint of percentage probability, how would you evaluate the chances of Trump and Harris victory, respectively? I guess I'd say 51% chance she wins, 49% chance he wins. I think it's basically a coin flip at this point. Tanner Wilson, what would it take for networks to change the Texas Senate race from lean R to toss up with how close it's getting? They have a huge debate next week. Again, I think it is easy to get 46 or 47% of the vote in a federal race in Texas as a Democrat. That's what Beto O'Rourke got. I think it's way harder to get 50. I just do. I know the polling suggests it's close. I just don't know that you can get to 50 as a Democrat right now. Let's see. Don Nerdleone. Great. As you likely know, Chuck Todd actually believes reading deeply into poll averages rather than specific respective polls is misleading to the point of being less informed. What do you say, Sarah? I don't know. I know Chuck thinks that. In fact, when I talked to Chuck about it on my Substack, I interviewed him. It's great, by the way. If you have not subscribed to my Substack, go do it. It's free. And if you want to donate $6 for a month of my Substack, $60 for the year. I know he feels that way about polling averages because he thinks there's a lot of bad polling and that messes up the averages. And he basically just trusts a few polls. I don't know. I was always taught by Charlie Cook, my mentor in this business, that the best way to understand the polls and where things are at is to take a bunch of them together and see what they tell you, because there's truth in those numbers, the broader numbers. So I guess I'm sticking by that, though I know Chuck disagrees with me. Mike Witt, Mike, thank you for the donation. Harris's interview with Howard Stern was awesome. I think more candidates going forward should go on Howard. Very good interview, very relaxed. I heard it was good. And yeah, I think going on some of these alternate broadcasts is smart too. I agree with you, Mike. Dan W., Electoral College. Republicans change their tune if Texas flips blue. It's the only chance to get rid of the Electoral College when it is no longer an advantage for Republicans. Yes, that is, Dan, thank you for your donation. Much appreciated. And yes, you are 100% right. That is how the Electoral College gets rid of. For people who have not followed this, look, the only real way to get rid of the Electoral College is via a constitutional amendment. In order to do that, you need 2/3 vote in the House and the Senate, not happening in this environment. And even if that happens, 3/4 of the state legislatures have to okay it. After that, definitely not happening in this environment. Remember, if Trump wins the White House and loses the popular vote in November, which is possible, it will be 3 elections out of the last 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, 2024, out of the last 7 that the winner of the popular vote, who was a Democrat, did not get into the White House because they lost the Electoral College. So Republicans don't want to change that because it makes them more likely to win the White House. I hope that makes sense. Human NC, do you think the Lincoln Project will affect the election? No, I do not. They will get Democratic base voters to give them money. 4 a.m. pizza, hotel or Airbnb? Hotel, man. That's how I roll. Jacob Brewer, who do you think wins Ohio Senate race, and is the Nebraska race truly a nail-biter? I think the Nebraska race, as I've talked about, probably a 5-point race, but I think Dan Osborne loses. Ohio Senate, I think Bernie Moreno is going to win by a point, just because I think Trump's going to win that state by 8, and I think that's going to be hard for Sherrod Brown to overperform. If he does, it is a remarkable accomplishment. If the top of the ticket loses by 8 points and you win in the Senate, that is amazing. Let's see, just a few more because I gotta go because the guy is outside waiting for me. Jody Ramirez, why doesn't January 6th resonate with the entire country the way 9/11 did or does? I watched live and I was disgusted. Okay, I get this question a lot. So yes, you would think it would seem that it would resonate. It does not, with at least some of the folks, and here's why. I'll give you three. Do I have three reasons? I think I have three reasons. One, we have short memories. So January 6th was 3.5 years ago. People are much more focused on like how much groceries cost. Number one. Number two, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, January 6th wasn't great, but like the system held and it wound up being fine. So why are we making such a big deal out of it? That's two. Three, a lot of people don't trust the media and think the media has made January 6th out to be way worse than it was. Now, I would argue you can look at the footage that has nothing to do with the media, the raw footage, and see how bad it was. But there's no question that for some people, the media is blown out of proportion. So that's why. Craig Skeptic. Craig, thanks for the donation. What is the difference between internal versus public polls? Is there a chance that the campaigns are seeing different results than we are seeing? Sure. So internal polling usually is conducted by the candidate and the campaign and not released publicly, while public polling is usually conducted by media organizations and those sorts of people, super PACs, and released publicly. Internal polls are much more aimed at predicting what will happen on November 5th, whereas public polls are more aimed at telling you what's happening right now. Does that make sense? One is aimed at being a snapshot in time. The other is much more aimed at predictive. If a campaign releases an internal poll, it's usually to combat a public perception. Like they'll release an internal poll that shows the race close if public polling shows the race getting further away, or to raise money, right? It usually has a purpose if they release it, because the vast majority of internal polling is not released. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Mike Witt. Christopher Boozy is saying Florida is still in play, but I say maybe in 28. Thoughts? And what's your favorite wrestling tag team ever, Chris? Mike, thank you for the donation. No, I don't think Florida is in play. I think Trump is going to win by 6 to 9 points. Maybe in 2028, sure. But I don't think it's in play this time. And I think Rick Scott's going to win. Favorite tag team ever? Maybe the Hart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Bret Hart, even though they weren't related. I love them, but mostly it's because I loved Bret Hart. Sidebar. On the flight out here, I started watching Mr. McMahon, the Netflix documentary about Vince McMahon and the WWE. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Amazing. And Bret Hart is in it. Bret Hart, by the way, is my favorite wrestler ever. Did I mention that? He's the best. There's an interview in there in which he says, like, yeah, sure, wrestling isn't totally real, but I was an artist out there. Amen, Bret Hart. Hitman. Pink tights. Slicked hair. Glasses. He was the best. Mark W. says his favorite was the Steiner brothers. Love the Steiner brothers. Any thoughts? Silver Spring 62. Any thoughts on who will win the Michigan Senate race? Going to be close. I think I'd rather marginally be Alyssa Slotkin right now, the Democrat, than Mike Rogers, the Republican, but marginally. You know, if Trump wins Michigan, that's, I think, the chance that Mike Rogers has. I could still see Slotkin eking it out if Trump wins, but I don't see any scenario where Kamala Harris wins Michigan and Mike Rogers gets elected to the Senate. Chris, have you read Bret Hart's book? I have not, but I will buy it and read it today. Joe D. Ramirez says McMahon is on my to-do list. Yeah, you got to watch it. Harvey Rabbit, the figure 4 leg lock. Fun fact, the figure 4 leg lock, which is a closing move made most famous by Ric Flair, actually hurts. If you've ever had someone put you in one, it actually does hurt. It is not fake. It does legitimately hurt. Now, I don't think it's going to like break your leg, but it can hurt. Taylor Lube, Chris, can you do a wrestling channel? What would I do? Would I just do just talk about wrestling? My problem is I'm much more an 80s and 90s wrestling guy than I am a now wrestling guy. I mean, I know Roman Reigns and I know Cody Rhodes, and I know that he is the son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. But I don't know. I don't know do people want to hear me talk about like Piper's Pit? Mike Witt says the Road Warriors was my favorite. That was Axe and Smash. They wore the spiky things, right? Am I thinking the right Road Warriors? Robert Reynolds. Robert, thank you for the donation. What will happen when Trump declares he wins when he actually loses? Can you make a whole video about this topic? What tactics will he employ? And number 2, what will Dems do to combat it? Yeah, he's going to, if he loses, he's going to say he won. He's already made that clear. He's basically already said, if I lose, it's because the election was stolen. What can Democrats do to combat it? I mean, the problem is that a lot of the people who are going to believe Trump aren't going to listen to what Democrats or people like me, journalists, say, They're just not. So I don't know how we combat that. And that's why I think we're headed to a dark place after the election. I know that's not what people want to hear, but Matt Davidson, thank you for the donation, Matt. Is it possible Trump internal shows something we don't see about the blue states? He's barnstorming a la Michigan 2016. You mean like New York, Illinois, California, Colorado? I don't think so. I mean, Colorado was a 13-point race in 2020. Maybe Trump gets to with single digits, but no. And he's going to be closer in New York than he was in 2016 or 2020, but he's not going to win. And I don't know. Illinois, no. California, no. I don't know why he's going there, honestly. I think it's just ego, genuinely, but I don't totally know. Let's see. Hawk and Animal were the Road Warriors. Yes, but they did wear the spiky things, right? Mark W., the Lex Luthor torture rack really worked. That's where he got you on his back. It was like the backbreaker. That looked like it hurt. They call me Blake. The Venn diagram of political junkies and wrestling fans crack me up. You guys rock. I know there are a lot of us. I love professional wrestling. It is like my favorite thing. And I'm going to write a whole post on my Substack, and maybe I'll do a video too about wrestling and politics and Trump. Let's see. MSU fan, I disagree with you on Trump going to Madison Square Garden being a bad move. It will bring a lot of publicity to it. Yeah, it absolutely will bring a lot of publicity to it. My issue with it is he could get a lot of publicity anywhere, right? Like, hold on, let me see. Oh, gosh. Okay, anyway. So I think he could do it in Arizona or anywhere. Like, I don't know. I don't think he needs to do it in Madison Square Garden. Though, yes, you're right. It will get a lot of attention. Let's see. Just checking to see if there's anything else. Sam, thank you for the donation, Sam. Bret Hart's book is amazing. It's about a guy who gives his entire life to wrestling only to see the business break his heart at every turn. So the 4th or 5th episode of the McMahon documentary is on the Montreal Screwjob, where Bret Hart gets screwed out of the title. I cannot wait for that one. But yeah, Bret Hart, Stu Hart, his dad, they trained him in Canada. It's an amazing story. It's so depressing. They're like the Von Erichs, like both just terribly sad stories. Awful. MSU fan, which Rust Belt Senate race will be the most likely to flip red? I think Ohio, because I think that's the state that Trump's going to win by the most. He's going to win by 8, probably 6 to 8. So I think that's probably the one. I think after that, I would say Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, in that order. I could buy switching Wisconsin and Michigan or Michigan and Wisconsin, but I think in that order. Bill Ho, did Vance's win of the debate help with the margin between Trump and Harris narrowing? No, because people don't care about the VP debate. Not really. Help Vance in the long run, but okay, 1 or 2 more. Tony Gatliff, thank you for your donation. Here's a question. Are there voters that voted for Trump in 2020 that are voting for Harris in 2024? I haven't seen that in real life. Sure, I'm sure there are some, but man, it would be hard for me to find that coalition. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's someone, but I don't know. H, are there any news sources out there that are trustworthy? This guy right here. I am trustworthy. I will tell you what I think, why I think it, how I think it, and if I'm wrong. So go support me. Subscribe. We only got 134 likes on this. Hammer that like button, people. Mike Witt, Wisconsin will come down to turnout in Madison and Milwaukee. Totally agree. Dane County, watch it. Totally agree. I'm going to come out with a counties to watch thing. I'll do a video on that. All right. I got to go. I got to go get my car to the plane, to the train, to the bus, back to DC. Thank you for joining me. As always, we are 25 days away. So when we do this again, we'll only be 18 days away. Holy moly. Next Friday. I think I'll be back in DC at that point. Yes, that checks out. As always, thank you. Let me ask you to do a couple things. One, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. It's free. Just do it. If you haven't liked this video, again, no harm. Just hit the like button. If you haven't told people about this channel, tell people about it. I need you to evangelize for me. I'm out here. I'm grinding. I need your help. And then the last thing is, if you've not checked out my Substack, check it out. It's just search my name, christeliza.substack.com, or just my name and Substack, and it'll come up. It's called So What? That's the name of the newsletter. It's a lot of good content. As I said, 70 to 80% of it's free. So check it out. And if you want to invest in me, I'd really appreciate it. $6 a month, $60 a year for the Substack, or you can just donate here. For everyone who donated here, thank you. It means a ton. I hope you understand that. What I'm doing is building. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm going to keep going. And Stephen Williams tells me we just went over 45,000 subscribers to this channel. Awesome. To 50. All right, people. Everybody take care. Be well. And I'll see you next week.